There was a significant story. Great job by the AP breaking it. UFC was purchased in part. 10% was sold to Abu Dhabi, the royal family. Flash Entertainment bought into the UFC. So for the first time, it's not just Dana White and the Fertittas. Why did they do that, Kevin?
Well, they did it because it's going to help them expand their influence in that part of the world, in Asia, in the Middle East. I had a conversation with Lorenzo Fertitta today. I did a column on this. You know, Stephen, one of the big things is China. You know, everybody wants to get, all the businesses in the U.S. want to be in the Chinese market, and there's a lot of money there. You know, for martial arts in China, you know, it's going to be huge. The UFC is actually on in China right now on what Lorenzo described to me as kind of like the, you know, a regional sports network. The Abu Dhabi people, the people who own Flash, it's a wholly owned subsidiary of the Abu Dhabi government, which is the richest sovereign wealth reserve in the world. Lorenzo said they have $800 billion with a B to $1 trillion cash on hand that they invest in things like General Electric and Ferrari and AMD microprocessors and all these different and varied businesses. They're bringing a Cleveland Clinic into Abu Dhabi. So this, you know, what they're going to be able to do is go directly to the Chinese government, get the people they need to at CCTV, and the UFC will be on network television in China, and that will allow all the other things that have made the UFC successful here develop. But first, they got to get that TV deal, a good, solid TV deal, and this is one of the things that will happen. And I think the upshot really is going to be, eventually there'll be better fighters developed because of this.
Of course. Any clue what Abu Dhabi spent to get in with UFC?
Very hush-hush. You know, I am going to guess that they spent $125 million on it, and that would mean that the company was valued at $1.25 billion.
Okay.
You know, that's a guesstimate on my part, but they had turned down $1.2 billion once before. Now, obviously, the economy is not the same as it was before, but you know, I think that it's fair to assume that the sale price was in that ballpark. So, you know, they got a very large cash infusion too.
For our locals who work for station casinos, what about the notion that's all over the net? I don't really believe this. I'm not sure how it's possible that they could take the money and use it for station casinos.
100% not true.
Yep.
I specifically asked that. I should have included that in my column, and I did not. But Lorenzo went on a very long explanation of how that the two don't mix, and it will have nothing to do with station casinos.
Yeah, I wouldn't even think it's legal. Kevin Iole's with us, MMA and boxing writer for Yahoo. One last thing on this. So the royal family, Abu Dhabi, buys into the UFC. They now own 10%. So as I joked the other day, Sheikh Tanoon, I think his name is, will now be doing the Q&As and running press conferences, so we don't have to talk to Dana anymore.
Sheikh White will be doing them.
Yeah, there's Sheikh White.
I like that.
The other note that came out, there's no arena in Abu Dhabi, and they're building it. Excuse me? It's April 10th when they're planning on doing it.
Yeah, it's very interesting that, you know, when Dana said that, and which leads me to believe that as great as they may be in world class over there, that I just don't think they're going to be able to get this thing done in time to have it in April, because they have to announce pretty soon. You know, I think you have a couple of more weeks, but you usually like to have, you know, 8 weeks lead time to you know, do a pay-per-view show, sell tickets, do all the things you need to do. And especially in this case, you know, where if you're going to be expecting people to travel from India and all around, you know, Asia and everything to come to this show, you know, they're going to need to give people some notice on this. So I think that they have just a couple of weeks to do it. So my guess would be maybe it's going to be a lot later than April 10th. But you know, no direct evidence of that one way or the other.
So where would April 10th be? Because obviously they're locking up all these big fights already with Anderson Silva and BJ Penn on the card and Renzo Gracie against Matt Hughes. What's the backup plan?
Well, I think, you know, my guess would be that Las Vegas would become the backup plan. That seems like whenever they have trouble, they come back to Las Vegas. You remember Lesnar and Couture fight was supposed to be in Portland to begin with. They brought it here, and that's been their thing. So I would think they'll go as long as they can, trying to get Abu Dhabi. If they can't, they'll come to Vegas. Now, I'll tell you one other thing that may complicate that, though. Strikeforce is interested in putting Fedor Emelianenko on a card April 10th in Las Vegas, presumably at the Thomas & Mack. Mm-hmm. The only issue there is that they have yet to finalize or turn in their promoter's application, And that's a process that generally takes 4 to 6 months to finalize. Now, Strikeforce is a pretty well-capitalized company. Their main partners are the San Jose Sharks, the people who own the Sharks. A lot of money with that. I would think that maybe they could short track it, but that would be the one thing that would prevent it. So we could have another, battle over, a date, this time in MMA with UFC and Strikeforce going at it.
And we're at the Thomas and Mack right now. Clearly they want these events here because they tried with Affliction, and then the folks at Affliction complained that UFC put a lot of pressure on local Vegas officials and made it impossible. So why would Strikeforce want to be here, and can they do it without the influence of UFC blocking them?
Well, certainly, it would be a lot harder for them to do it if UFC didn't have if UFC has an event somewhere else in the world, then I think they can do it no problem, and it won't be an issue. But let's say that the Abu Dhabi show doesn't come off, then all of a sudden it's a whole different kettle of fish. And I think now that you'll see Dana White get involved and look at doing what he can do to block and it's really, they play hardball, and I would anticipate they would play very, very hard, very, very rough in that particular situation. But I know that the Thomas and Mack would like the business. I know that the city, the LVCVA, would like to have the business. And, especially with the Mayweather fight going away, anything that could bring a lot of people in and generate some money, which a Fedor fight would, they're going to be, eager to get. So it's going to be a very interesting next couple of months to see it in both boxing and MMA to see how this all breaks out.